Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shrimad Bhagavatam.
So today we are reading Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, Text 28. Is that right? Yes, it is. Karpajana Prabhu, Sanskrit is yours. All right.
Kvapi deva maya striya bhujalota pagutta raskanna viveka vikyano yadvihara griharam bhakula hridayas tat ashraya vasakta sutaddu hitrikalatra bhashitavaloka vicheshtita pahlita hridaya Atmanam ajitatma parente tamasi prahinoti.
Я прочитаю перевод сразу же.
So now I'll read the translation.
Это интересно, что вот глава называется «Материальный мир как лес наслаждений».
It is interesting that this chapter is called The Material World as the Great Forest of Enjoyment. And here we've just said prose. The whole Shrimad Bhagavatam is in verses, but here we've come across prose.
Потому что, наверное, очень много разных препятствий.
That's probably because there are so many hindrances and problems, and it's difficult to describe them in verses, in poetry. That might be another reason. I've just thought about it. Prose does not carry feelings as verses do. Usually Paramahamsa does not touch upon these difficulties, what people do in this material world, what they enjoy, and it's just avoided in here. And the feelings, the senses, they're usually used in spiritual purposes. So that there's no entanglement. Here we are reading prose, but not verses, not poetry. Sometimes the conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified, his wife or girlfriend, and becomes eager to be embraced by a woman. Thus, he loses his intelligence as well as knowledge of life's goal. You see, that's why it's just prose. If you described it in poetry, that would be very strange. At that time, no longer attempting spiritual cultivation, he becomes overly attached to his wife or girlfriend and tries to provide her with a suitable apartment. Again, he becomes very busy under the shelter of that home. He is captivated by the talks, glances and activities of his wife and children. In this way, he loses his Krishna consciousness and throws himself in the dense darkness of material existence. You see, it actually basically what happens. You don't have to prove it. The only thing is that can confront this verse. The senses, the attachments of the people, because wife and children, these are the biggest, the strongest attachments of a people. That's why people do not like to listen about that. And this is true, people just lose their spiritual knowledge in this connection. They think that all these relationships, both individual, private and friendship, they are all spiritual relationships. Also intelligence, wisdom. They probably consider that there's some perfection in relationships in their families. But matter of fact, there's no perfection in there. truly saying that true love is really difficult to be found in this life. Even when you are a spiritual master, it is really hard to find a true love. Yeah, well, spiritual masters, they do love, but this love is not connected with this material world. This love is realistic. It's different. And not always it is so encompassing. It might still develop. So it might be a terrible picture when you fall in love with someone. And for example, if you're talking about the love of God, the love to God is actually connected with your intelligence, not with your material senses. First of all, you have to wake up your intelligence. And only that, it will encompass all your entity. But also it is said that even if you feel a shadow of bhakti, you see God everywhere. So you shadow, a taste. Prabhupada uses this word. If you feel the taste of bhakti at least, even if you don't see Shyama Sundara yet, but you already understand the universal form of God, like a taste of God. And when a person gets purified to a higher extent, then you get elevated. So this pure love, it's reflected in relationships of pure devotees. So Paramahamsa and another Paramahamsa, they remind each other about devotional service. It is described that when Vrindavana's dwellers, they meet each other, well, they are relatives, Kunti and Vasudeva, they are brother and sister. So when they would meet in the past, they would feel ecstasy, as though they would meet Krishna. In their heart, in their consciousness, they've always had Krishna. It's just devotees think that there can be no other relationships except relationships with Krishna. No, they still ask each other about how the life is going, how the families are. But there's a great difference between material families and spiritual families. Love versus lust. When you feel lust, all the house should be closed. You even have to hide it from each other, even from your son, for example, that might steal your money, or your wife stealing your money. But she thinks that her husband can take this money as well. This is all lust. The only thing that connects them is the sexual activity. That's why it's called Durga, just like a castle for senses gratification, when you can hide yourself. Because usually people are ashamed to express this lust. Dogs, they can do whatever they want outside so that everybody can see it, but people, they cannot do that because we will be put to shame. Sometimes some beginning Vaishnavas, they get in contact with the purity and they start acting as though they are having this devotional service. Like the first year, before the initiation, in the very beginning of initiation, but still they still have this false ego, ahankara. These devotees, they still make mistakes, even already being devotees, because they are still conditioned before they even had committed any mistakes. So these devotees, sometimes they are ready to leave their relatives behind, just to serve the spiritual master. I don't remember for sure, Karpajana Prabhu, maybe you will recall, but Prabhupada says about it in some place. I can't recall it. Probably the nectar of instructions. The symptoms of pure devotional service can be even expressed by neophytes. Even those who imitate some kind of spiritual life, they can really feel the presence of bhakti. But I've just recently read about that. But since there are some offenses committed, of course, we may lose this advance. It's just there's a combination of all these senses and feelings, and we have to be really careful. It's either we choose spirit or matter. Sometimes it can finish tragically. If we choose matter and we start practicing, we lose risk in this, the association of Vaishnavas at all. We may even forget that there's a soul and something that is precious. Even though these devotee practices, but you see, we are in conflict with this person, and I cannot tolerate some of his sins, his varna or ashramam. And eventually we say that sometimes materialists, they have quite an elevated culture, and that's why we leave Krishna consciousness. If we had already chosen a choice, that means that we avoid to get in contact with material qualities. We might be even talking about them, but we still remember about spiritual things. We differentiate spirit from body. And Prabhupada has given us this mission. That's what we have to think about. Otherwise, that's just a forest of sensual gratification. It's easy to enter there, but you cannot get out of there. That's how all our fairy tales start. There's a girl entering forest, looking for some mushrooms, one mushroom, another one, and then you just get lost. Then you try to find someone else to help you out, but there's no way back. You have to save this person right now. Well, of course, then you will find some nice guy helping you out. Probably I've just confused all the fairy tales. I've mixed them up, but it doesn't matter. The point is the same. So now let's read the purport. When the conditioned soul is embraced by his beloved wife, he forgets everything about Krishna consciousness. That's how Maya acts. The more he becomes attached to his wife, the more he becomes implicated in family life. Pay attention. Attachment is used here, not love. Well, there is some portion of love, but it's still called attachment, because it becomes a possessment, like an ownership. Although Krishna owns everything, the point is that if a husband doesn't think so, he will be still attracted by other wives. You should not possess your wife, and your wife should not possess your husband. You don't have to think in this way. Like, where are you going? What are you doing? Tell me everything I need to know. So Grihastha Ashram means that when your wife controls your senses, or vice versa. Because otherwise husband will be afraid that his wife will sense something, like his inclination to cheat on something. So that's all we have in this time. If a person loves very, very much and he doesn't get it back, he gets very upset. He feels like he needs to get a proprietorship of this. So if you like something in this life and you don't get it, you suffer. So it's not about love, it's about attachment, sense of proprietorship. One Bengali poet, Bankim Chandra, says that to the eyes of the lover, the beloved is always very beautiful, even though ugly. You see, a person that is in love, that's the way he feels. You know, people in love, they even look better. Their appearance is better. Maya is acting just in a miraculous way. If a person is in love, you can see that by their eyes, by their faces, their facial expression. These people become very inspired. It feels like they're just flying over the ground. Even if you try to offend him, he doesn't get offended. Just like real Paramahamsa. So this attraction is called Deva Maya. Attraction between man and woman is the cause of bondage for both. Actually, both belong to the Para-Prakriti, the superior energy of the Lord, but both are actually Prakriti, female's nature. You see, there's no difference in the spiritual level between man and woman, because they are in the same category of living entities. But here they are divided into women and men. Man thinks that this is Prakriti, that's the source of my senses enjoyment. And she thinks that he will be fulfilling all my desires. But then, see, under this Prakriti, there's the same Purusha. And she thinks the same. This is a trap. But the point is that none of them are Purusha. They're both Prakriti. But the material world acts in the way that man does not want to behave like a woman. If it's a healthy man, anything can happen these ways. You know, this probably example is not actual anymore. When I was at school, so there was one boy that fell in love with a girl. He told me which girl he fell in love with. So we went there, you know, to look at this girl. We just wanted to introduce them to each other. I told him, why are you so afraid? Let's go there. Let's meet her. He said, no, I'm not coming with you. You know, love is all about that. So two of us, we took him, and then we saw her smoking just behind the bush. And then we said, are you serious? Like, she's smoking. So drop her right now. So it was back then. So boys thought that if she smokes, no, it's not gonna work out. That's not the girl, that's not the right girl for me. And then when we grew up a little bit, we saw that almost all the women, all the girls, they were smoking. Not so openly, but they were hiding in bushes. Then we went to St. Petersburg, when we grew older a little bit. And then right at the main avenue, a lot of girls were drinking and drinking beer, smoking cigarettes. That's what kind of culture we experienced. See, Purusha, woman turns into Purusha. Then what's a man supposed to do? He becomes a woman under the influence of your energy. This might happen right in front of your eyes. So a man becomes very subordinate or weak, and a woman becomes stronger. This is the nowadays world, this is the present world. So for woman, if she doesn't need to express the energy of Purusha, it is recommended for her to be shy, to dress accordingly, to be married, and so on and so on. There are some strict rules for women. Otherwise, our whole civilization will be toppled down. And as a result, there's no difference that can be seen between men and women. What difference does it make whom I make sense with? You see, if this internal energy changes, people just go crazy, they go insane. But initially, both of them, they have female's nature. So we have to be ashamed of our lust, of our greediness, of our enviness. So this shyness is prescribed to any woman. A man, he serves to the society, he does a lot of things. He serves his family, but the wife is supposed to serve him. If the woman doesn't serve to him, she becomes more powerful, and she overpowers him. And there's no other way out for him, because he will become as a woman. So let's not go too deep. Let's go on. However, because both want to enjoy one another, they are sometimes described as Purusha, not Prakriti. Because they want to enjoy just like Purusha, that's why they might be called Purusha sometimes. Actually, neither is Purusha, but both can be superficially described as Purusha. As soon as man and woman are united, they become attached to home, hearth, land, friendship and money, and so on. In this way, they are both entrapped in material existence. The word Bhuja Lata Upagutha, meaning being embraced by beautiful arms which are compared to creepers, just like lianas. They entangle your hands just like lianas do. It describes the way their conditioned soul is bound within this material world. Well, take a look at it. People do not even imagine another kind of love except having families, job, sometimes some journeys. There's no other way. If there is another way, it might look really strange. How can you live without that? Don't you work? What are you doing? Do you have a house? No, are you serious? How do you even live? They can't even imagine another life, another lifestyle. And in their understanding, this is the private space that no one can intrude. But on the spiritual point of view, the house of a spiritual person, that's a place for inviting, for having guests. This is the main purpose. And whatever they do, they're supposed to be doing it for other people, for God, for the society. Thinking about big family. You see, this is all forbidden. See, this intimate love, it should be regulated, of course. Whereas they go through this sphere as well. It also should be regulated. So man and as soon as a man and a woman are united, they become attached. So this is the way of material existence. This knot, it gets even tighter. The strongest attachment in this world is family attachment. You have to be really careful not to forget about Krishna. Anyone entering family life, he forgets about Krishna for some time initially. He only practices it formally, just like a ritualistic activity without any senses to Krishna. But as a ritual, he feels that it's a good thing to do, especially in the society of Vaishnavas. Because, of course, we want devotees to see our altar. We want them to see us serving. We commit Purusha, flowers, decorated altar. Of course, we might organize this show up, like a show, for the devotees. There can be a lot of examples here and there. So usually we do it all as a show because we are cultivating this culture. But if you want to express your real love, It is harder. This place may be already taken by the kids. They really attach their parents to themselves. If you're a wife, it's really hard to look at this world from another perspective. That's why material world is controlled by women. Durga, she's female. For man, if he wants to develop his transcendental vision, he has to get rid of his attachments, not because of his from his family, but from disattachment. He has to fall in love with Krishna, and this is a hard work, because there's false ego. A wife is an embodiment of a false ego for her husband. She protects her false ego very powerfully. But today we say about the material side of it. If we talk about Grihastha ashram, the picture is different. This is a different talk. We don't even compare it. In Grihastha ashram, it is possible to receive the love of God if you do it accordingly to the prescriptions, to acharyas. Just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, they used to live in families, the followers of Lord Chaitanya. But this is a different topic. This is a unique thing. In any ashram, you can develop love for God. When we were talking about embraces, about unregulated sexual life, it is impossible. So there is a period of time when people make children. So materialists don't get, they don't intrude. But Vedas or Shastras, they enter all these life activities. Everything is described in Shastras. How to make children, how to attract children into your life. All the traps and deceptions, everything is described. Materialists, they either shy of this topic or they get sexually excited when they talk about, when they discuss these topics. Even this topic of Krishna dancing together with gopis, we cannot tell about it to all the materialists, because they simply get excited too much. Acharyas give us these comments, purports explaining us all this stuff. So we have to differentiate material life from spiritual life. Externally, they might be looking similar, but it's not the same at all. So if you live as a family guy, it's not a fact at all that you are not a devotee. And even if you are not living in family, it does not mean that you are a true devotee. So here it is described in the internal energy is entangled with lianas and attachments. So this person becomes a slave to the hands of women, and also building his house, gaining money, friends, connections, job, career. He becomes a slave of this activity, not only in this life, but from life to life. From life to life, it is said. In addition, this slavery activity can make him be born an animal in the next life. Take a look at these animals. They look so hotter than the people. Look at the lion, for example. He does not get food so easily. It runs away from it. Sometimes even a lion can die out of hunger because it is so hard to get food. It's either you die or survive. In a human society, we have some varnas and ashramas, and you can easily arrange your life if you get detached from all these attachments. The point is that we simply neglect the laws of God by just following the path of family attachments. A woman is a fire, a man is an oil. So people just don't even understand how it all happens. It happens that you used to love each other, then your feelings chilled, then you get divorced. Any sphere you go to, there are some serious problems. First you like it, then you don't. Everywhere there's some corruption, some sins, some lies, some ego. Building career. Just like in family. Because the whole civilization depends on these relationships of women and men. If we practice celibacy, people think that we are crazy, that we are insane. They keep asking, why are you doing it? This is a very dangerous sect. So become family people, and because everything is based on sexual relationships. That's why we have to understand all the signs of all these relationships. In here, on the one hand, this material world is compared to a forest of sensual gratification. At some point, your life just becomes unbearable. It becomes unpleasant to you at all. It becomes ugly to you. It's amazing when an ordinary person has some lust. He looks good, like wearing some nice outfits. His physical appearance is okay. He's looking decent. But then when he gets older and his lust goes down, he starts looking not exactly as he looked before. His clothes becomes shabby. He starts talking some strange things, and people just stop paying attention to him. They don't think that this man says some can't say any serious things anymore. That's how we treat elders in our society. Have you ever seen any enlightened old man? The one that when he starts speaking, everyone would just hear him, would just listen to him. Not really. That's the future of our civilization. So these old men and old women, they embody the end of this civilization. Everything is so simple. We can see the future now. And if you take a look at the children, it's not only the end of civilization. You understand that this is a terrible end of civilization. Remember in our previous generations, if a girl smoked cigarettes, we would never become friends with her, we would never date her. But now it's a totally normal thing. If she smokes or drinks alcohol, that's okay. You can easily date her. You know these 4 stages. You're born, you have some sicknesses, you get older, you die. You see, sicknesses, diseases are different. Your birth is different. The way you die is different. Someone can be born a very ugly person, and the end also can be terrible. Someone has a lot of diseases, but there are so many different diseases out there. The end of your life might be terrible as well. When you get older, aging can be also different and terrible thing. No one knows the way we're going to die. A lot of people are just waiting for it to finish. A lot of them, they have already lost hope. Factually, they're just aspiring for death. Just to get rid of these sufferings. It's one killer, like a professional killer, that I met back in the time. So he had lost all the sense of life, so he was a potential suicider. He wasn't afraid of anything. And when he got caught by some team to kill him, he said, "Well, of course, do it. Kill me." He was totally composed. "I don't have any pity for this life." He understood it very clearly. So the end could be terrible. We all hope for a good end of our lives. So we die in some silks, surrounded by relatives, crying out, "How are we supposed to live without you?" Everyone's fighting, crying, and then you just leave your body like a triumph. And then a monument dedicated to you. Even to the great people, the monuments are taken down. The ones that we saw in the past on our main squares. So that's the material world. The horrors of the material existence. Bhagavatam also has this side, and it also reminds us about the people that forgot Krishna. This is the path of oblivion. But a person can always go back reversely. It's just he needs a spiritual master. Spiritual masters, they have to be in a society. Otherwise, you will just get drowned in this swamp. Well, of course, if a devotee can invite someone into his house, some other devotees, some sannyasis, or a disciple of Prabhupada, this is a great thing. You should invite devotees to your house regularly. Read holy scriptures. It's a necessity. In this case, there's no difference between grihasthas and sannyasis. When you associate together on these sacred topics, this is all paramahamsa. Well, your life is different from sannyasa. Your internal energy is okay, but you can be anyone externally. Lord Chaitanya used to say, "I'm not grihastha or brahmacharya, I'm just a servant of God." That's what I have to remember about. So Prabhupada says that if sannyasi gets married, he has to continue serving, devotional service in grihastha ashram. Anyways, you're a devotee. It doesn't matter which ashram you're in, it's all just a formal thing. Although Lord Chaitanya, he punished Haridas, the young Haridas. So yeah, you see sometimes it may happen. You just even though it happens, you just have to continue your devotional service. So these topics we have today about family life, but I'd like to underline, emphasize it once again. This is about material life, material family life, not a devotional one. Even though if a husband has some spiritual inclinations, if he marries a materialistic woman, most probably he will forget about everything. So you have to be really careful in marriage. Today, these are difficulty in ISKCON with marriages. It's very challenging to solve such questions, such issues, and there are more women than men, and it's not easy to arrange these marriages, even in a quantitative respect. Also, qualitatively, most of the women, they, for some reason, look up to some really elevated devotees. And they want to bring down some elevated devotees. So there's a proverb, if you want to marry a general, first you have to marry a colonel and then make him a general. So these women are very career-oriented. They build up this career. Well, this is a very difficult question. I cannot solve it myself, only with your help, dear devotees. I'm really deadlocked here. Everyone is in Maya. Anywhere you go, here and there, Maya in every place. The situation is really difficult. But still they hold on. You see, Maya punches you, You fall down, you stand back up, and you continue fighting against Maya. Undestructible, very strong people.
Уже 20 раз упал и встает все равно.
Even though he had fallen down for 20 times,
Вот
he
единственное,
stands
что
back up again and continues fighting. So kudos to Grihastha ashram,
в плачевном состоянии.
but so far this situation is not very beneficial.
Карабаджан Прабху, когда организовывает эти классы для
So what Chandra Prabhu does, organizing these classes, is a very important thing. It's important for you all to join. You see, it's not difficult at all. You don't even
бензин, ничего, просто открывайте компьютер.
go anywhere. Just open up your computer and look at Chandra Prabhu. He is already in your house.
Поэтому, пожалуйста, пользуйтесь этим каждый
So
день.
please use it every day. Listen to something.
И также звоните друг другу иногда без спроса.
Call each other sometimes. Just ask, how's your japa? Have you done your rounds already? It's 10 o'clock. And I'm still in Maya. I've just chanted half of it. Then you support each other. It's a good thing. We used to do that. We used to call each other. So I would say, I would wake up at 4:30. I would call up to another devotee that wouldn't just wake up at about 4 o'clock. He would just wake up at 8 o'clock in the mornings. And everybody knew about it. So anytime you call him, he's sleeping. He was initiated one. So everyone was scorching him. We said to him, this is such an aparaha, guru aparaha. Why are you sleeping? He was so ashamed of it. So he would come up to me and said, and asked me, what time do you wake up? I said 4:30 in the mornings. He said, can you call me up right away? I said, of course. So I call him up the next morning. Interesting. He picks up his phone immediately. Are you sleeping? He said, no. I've already woken up. Very strange voice. So I think, okay. But then he overslept for his job. So I asked him, why did you oversleep? Remember, I woke you up. He picked up the phone. Oh, but the point is that he was still lying in bed when answering the phone. You see, if the person really wants to sleep so much, you can't do anything about it. But this is about your conscience. You have to feel the remorse of your consciousness very much when you sleep for long hours. So Chandra Prabhu, I think you can calculate, you can find out who there are, who these devotees are. So you need reading Shrimad Bhagavatam. First of all, you have to put him to shame for about 30 minutes. And then we have to come up with some punishment. To carry some water, to do some physical activities. But it's better to give some work for Krishna. Yeah, that will be just working for prasadam. For those who do not wake up early in the morning. And for those who do wake up in the morning, they will be lording it over the world. See, everyone wants to lord it over. So that's the way you can become an elevated person. You'll be developing, your reputation will be developing. If you wake up very early for 20 years and chanting your mantra, you'll become a great person. At least you have this stimulus. You'll become a great person. Krishna will make you small, of course, but there's a great amount of stimulation. So big people, they think that they can sleep for as many hours as they want. They think that Maya does not touch upon me. And then you think to yourself, I'm Grihastha myself. Sannyasi is not going to say that. He respects Grihastha ashram. But I have to say that family people, they're heartless. They think that family life is more important than their family life. To be sincere. So let's just not wander in this forest and take it more
Не думайте, что
serious.
серьезно. Не думайте так, пожалуйста, никто.
Don't think that everyone is already so serious. Let's just improve our practice. We are already all good. We're all Mahatmas, you see, just take a look at our faces, we're all Mahatmas. But we have to improve and improve and improve. And there are so many things to be improved. To not just stop here at this stage. And of course we're all inclined to have some rest from this devotional service. And it's always going to be like that. Okay, so now let's discuss this topic. Hot topic.
Hari-cakra. Спасибо, Chaitanya Chandra Charan
So
prabhu.
thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu.
Замечательную катху.
This
Я бы хотел бы начать с
excellent
того, что вы
katha.
сказали,
So I'd like to start with
у людей
what you said, that
пробуждать или делать
we need to
быстрее чувство
awaken people
совести.
to make this
С этим хочу сказать, что
sense of
вашей
consciousness, conscience
благословению
more acute.
какое-то время назад начали по
So
утрам
by your grace, some time ago,
организовывать
we started
совместное чтение джапы.
organizing mutual
Виртуально
chanting of
создали
japa.
баджан кутир.
So we've created Bhajan Kutir virtually.
До 6 повторяем
From
мантру.
5 till 6 o'clock in the morning we chant mantra.
5-6 человек
So in the beginning there were like 5 or 6
Сейчас
people.
могу сказать, что
So now I can tell that
что
the number is about 35, even 40 people.
читаем джапу. И вот
So
теперь
we read
мы
japa,
можем
we chant
уже
japa,
список составлять те, кто рано встают.
and now we can make a list of people who do wake up early in the mornings.
Вот. Выяснять, кто же не приходит на джапу. Вот
So
это.
now we know who doesn't
Потому что
come
они спят.
to japa early in the mornings. Yeah, just to catch them and send them away to deserted islands where they can sleep for long hours. So what do you think we should do with the people who do not wake up early in the mornings? I think we just have to inspire them and pray for them. Most probably they will get inspired. You're very kind. And I would just beat them with a stick probably every morning to wake them up.
Похоже, вот этот позитивный пример
But it seems like this positive example, positive energy does work. More and more people, they
преданных.
join. And the number of devotees
Продолжай, пожалуйста,
is growing.
благословите, и мы будем также об этом говорить.
So please give us your blessings and we'll be talking about it, we'll be advertising it.
Час
So the devotees know that
совместно джапу.
every morning, 1
На
hour,
самом деле,
we chant japa
2
mutually.
часа повторяем, потому что я чуть раньше подсоединяюсь.
Well, matter of fact, we do it for 2 hours every day.
Баджан кутир открыт, очень многие
Because I join a little bit earlier every day. And yeah, a lot of devotees come. So thank you so much for doing it. It's a very important example that should be talked about. Of course, it inspires devotees. And it's very important to know about that. It's a bad thing when we know that devotees, they sleep in the mornings. It's bad for the movement. It worsens our mood, our faith. So of course, thank you so much for waking up early and chant mantra,
Спасибо. Вашими молитвами,
chant the mantra.
благословениями.
All by your blessings, all by your grace.
Еще можно пару слов сказать? Вы сегодня говорили,
So, a few more words.
когда люди слышат, ну, в основном, скажем, непреданные,
Today you've mentioned that, well, mostly non-devotees, so materialists,
стихи,
they hear verses
наизнанку выворачивается
where
этого материального мира,
the reality of this material world is totally
привязанности,
toppled down. All the attachments,
отношений.
family attachments and relationships.
Конечно же, это вызывает определенный
Of
конфликт.
course, it triggers some conflict
Люди привязаны к
because people are attached to their families,
детям,
to the wives and children.
но очень важно, похоже, нам глубоко понимать то,
But it
что
seems like it's very
есть
important
разница между
to understand
привязанностью
it.
и любовью.
That there's a difference between love and attachment.
Шрила Прабхупада,
As Srila Prabhupada in Shrimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Chandra Charan describe, initial love to God in its pure form touches upon this material world in its ugly form. It becomes karma. Karma means where I consider myself to be in the center. I put my old desires in the center, my egoistic desires, demands, and I treat everyone else, perceive everyone else as an addition, as a complement to all my desires. In other words, this is exploitation. Also, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that lust is the most dangerous enemy. So, what are we supposed to do with it? So there's a great program that is called the process of Bhakti Yoga, because on the surface, we might understand that this material world is a terrible place, but there are some objects that can pull me in, and we have a desire to get away from there. But the reality is that very few people can just renounce and go away. And there might be some consequences when the society pushes you and imposes a lot of things upon you. So this program of Grihastha Ashram, there are some Grihamedhis that has sensual gratification in the center. So we just have to take the place of an enjoyer. And this Grihastha Ashram program, the shelter, where a living being, just like you've said, and I liked it very much, being in Grihastha Ashram person can be no different from sannyasi. And we can recall the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says Nitya Sannyas means the eternal sannyasa. And Srila Prabhupada gives us this definition. Eternal sannyas is the one who understands that everything belongs to God, including your own body, intelligence and speech, and accordingly your family, everything that depends on this person, everything belongs to Krishna. And my responsibility to take care of them, so that they become decent people, decent servants of God, to engage everything in serving to God. This is Nitya Sannyas. So if you have this consciousness, it's not worse than real sannyas. So coming back to the fact that this program is very safe among all these Grihastha ashrams, we have to motivate this ashram to help Grihastha ashram to develop it, because it's the basis of Varnashrama, of the society. Of course, there's some sad statistics and so on, but nevertheless, all that you've said today, there are some difficulties when people just fall down and rise back again. I can say that one beaten, 3 to 4 beaten, unbeaten are given. Most of us, we receive this experience in real life, and now we have to deepen this experience and enrich it. And in this connection, I'd like to please you here, saying that we've started another project. It's called Grihastha Ashram. So we teach Grihasthas that have already achieved some respectful age. So we teach them under the instructions of disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and we want these devotees to be known, and we're going to announce them very soon, because they can become real consultants, real mentors, helping us to develop Grihastha ashram, to give the mentorship to young families. Karbhajana Prabhu, it's priceless what you are doing. Scriptures say that the most powerful thing in this world is lost karma. And it's like a very powerful locomotive riding along these trails, dragging all civilization behind it, because it's really powerful. And it gains speed eventually, having this mass, this weight, this power. So this locomotive gains speed and it becomes unstoppable. And it goes to hell. A love to God is in the opposite direction. And Prabhupada says that we cannot just change this direction instantly, because everything will get annihilated. The only way to do it is to change the path, the trail, so that locomotive at the same speed will take another turn and go to another direction. Because these family circumstances are so subtle, everything is so fragile. It may get ruined very easily. A lot of devotees are fanatic, they don't understand some things, so we just have to take care of them, to give them some mentorship. So this is a very important detail. So we just have to make a turn in another direction. Thanks God, we already have this resource. So there are already some mentors and disciples of Srila Prabhupada giving some instructions, and we should be given this necessary connection to protect their families but not to ruin them. People have to have this knowledge. Okay, dear devotees, some other questions? So Victor, please make an announcement. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, the ones who are watching us on YouTube, please click on the link below in the comments, in the description, and then we'll try to give you some time for your questions. Devotees in the Zoom, please raise your hands and ask your questions. And if it's okay, I can start, since there's no one raising their hands. So what is the right mood when you enter Grihastha ashram? What's the set of mind that we should possess? It's like two sides of a medal. On the one hand, there's a desire, some karma, to gratify my senses, some sympathy, and some other things. But on the other hand, as Karbhajana Prabhu says, the program of a spiritual development, like a duty, like a service. You understand that you go into the Grihastha ashram to develop yourself. So what about this set of mind? Should they both present at the same time? And if there's no desire to enter Grihastha ashram, you take it just like a duty. Is there an okay, the normal set of mind? Well, it might happen. There are some women this time that do not want to have any children, some men that do not want to have families as well, no children. They still have lust, but why do they not want? There's no desire. There's some lust, they want to enjoy it, but they don't want to have families and children. Why does it happen? One of the reasons is that family and children in present time have no price. Devaluated, totally devaluated. Well, so what? I take a look at some family that has some children, so what? It's good when you have some talented children, some great children. No, mostly it's just some problems, you see. And then you get attached to them, you have to live with these problems all the time. You have to worry about that. So this perspective is not attractive at all. Family, what's the value in family? If you take a look at it, what are they doing over there? So yesterday we visited some family. One woman said that, I don't see any value in family life. Having seen the way people live, I didn't see them become so happy. Doesn't bring any happiness. I just don't understand why people strive for this family life. Because everything is devalued. So what we call Grihastha ashram now is not the same thing that it was back in the time, in those great times. People that could be doing it on a very high level back then. So there was a level of great people. Traditions were great. Although people were not probably the most elevated ones, but still they were following some traditions. And family matters a lot. It had this value. Prabhupada also says that family is dangerous because you might lose the attachment to Krishna, to devotees. And at the same time, people do not understand fully why family life is so important. That's why a lot of people do not even understand what it is. That's what Prabhupada saw in West when he came there from India. He said, if you want attachment is fewer, sannyasa should be taken in the end of your life. If you want to do it sooner, well, do it now. If you follow the principles, you should not even enter this Grihastha ashram. You should not marry anyone. Just go out there and preach. You see, it works at one stage, but then without the support of life, everything gets ruined. Varnashrama arma is not possible without Grihastha ashram. If there is no good family, you cannot build this society properly. The change is not going. The world is not going to change because there must be a supportive force supporting it all. The family people, family life is very important. Today it's more and more actual, more and more important. And if we see these real values in family life, they're all real. People will be doing it with more desire. We've seen so many women attending our programs, young women. They had different fates, of course, but their family lives, they were broken, ruined. But they received this Krishna consciousness. The first thing that they started doing when they got their confidence back, they started having families bravely. And that's a good thing. You see, someone denounces, but another person says, I have to have some children, I have to have family, and I have to pass this knowledge to my children. Well, men, they become more denounced, but still they have attachment to Krishna, but not to women. And the family becomes even stronger. But you have to install these values first of all, so they become evident, apparent to everybody else. So in ISKCON, there's just one or two examples of successful grihasthas. So we need to install it more apparently, so that people see it, so that people understand what Grihastha ashram is. And it's very valuable. So Prabhupada said that if a person has one wife, this is brahmachari. One wife for his entire life. He can be equal to brahmachari. More questions, please? Nitai Mangala Prabhu, turn your mic on, please. Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisances, dear devotees. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Dear Gurudev, universal form. On the level of being philosophical, a devotee understands the supremacy of Lord, its power. And we know that Lord Kṛṣṇa, you cannot buy him with this love that has mixtures, impurities. So the question is, how can a devotee denounce this philosophical entertainment and start seeing this power in Krishna? And when you just see him as Krishna, see, devotee does not denounce. It's just a growth. Just as a baby grows up, he does not denounce his little body. He's just growing in this physical body. Same situation with a devotee. He grows up, he sees this universal form, he keeps on developing. It's like another step, another stage in development. So he unites all this. When you see this universal form, it doesn't mean that something that is not correct, something that is not right. You see this Krishna's consciousness. Sometimes he sees this life on one perspective, a child sees it in another perspective, but this is the same life. Don't think that a child sees this world differently. He sees this world with the vision of games, of playing games. This Krishna's consciousness is him from his birth. That's exactly what Krishna does. But unfortunately, you can't apply these games to this world. Only these games. But don't forget about these games. He will remind you about them. This is an important thing in our existence. Everything that is given to us by God. We just grow up. And there's something else. So jnana interrupts on the path of bhakti. It stops this devotional service, and brahmanas that did not see their wives to be devotional. So jnana does not interrupt. The attachment to jnana, it does interrupt. Jnana and vairagya, they promote bhakti. But there's a risk that we can get attached to jnana, to the jnana vairagya. So you have to get attached to Krishna. Jnana is a good thing. Vairagya is a good thing as well. But if you get attached to them, it's a bad thing. Thank you very much, Jia Gurudev. Navakishori Mataji, please. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisance as dear devotees. Chaitanya Chandra Charan, Maharaj, Haribol. See, this lecture is very current. I've been going through all these periods, but there's some rumors, and wives and husbands, and families having no children. So now people keep saying that Chinese, they produce some food products that impede the birth of children. So they eat something and inception doesn't happen. But you see, thanks God we have a child in our family. So this lecture is very current and important for me. Yes, indeed, this new generation that has come. You see, back then I couldn't even tell anything bad to my husband's father. I was so embarrassed in front of him always. I was very shy. I was dressing up myself accordingly. And now you can do whatever you want. Things have changed, and you treat your husband's or your wife's parents differently. See, maybe it's not so bad if you just clap them on their shoulders.
Уже еще какое-то
We
время.
can still survive, probably.
Да, да, поколения совершенно разные.
You see, this generation is totally different.
Кали-юга, она
I can feel this Kali Yuga is gaining
Когда мы говорим, что
revolutions,
людям не хватает любви,
gaining
поэтому
speed.
они озлабливаются, да? И мы не разъясняем, какой любви.
When there's not enough
Потому что
love, people
ускорим
get
деградацию.
evil, get angry.
Потому что чем больше будете потакать материальным
So the more you
чувствам,
promote
проявлять,
material
больше будет.
feelings,
Понимаете,
material
да? Сейчас
senses,
все говорят,
the
любовь,
less
любовь,
love we have.
наслушались тут разных лекций, там психологи, материалисты.
So now a lot of people, the psychologists, materialists, they talk about love very much. Yeah, we need to have love because there's not enough love. Give them more love. But this might be even a bad case scenario. It's all about spiritual love. From the state of the intelligence, not just the sentimental love. We only make things worse.
А вообще мы
Семья будет держаться вот на этих как бы вот основах духовных отношений,
Your family,
поддерживающих силы.
it will be
Мы
based
можем общаться как муж, жена, там дети,
on
родственники,
different things. Of course, we can still communicate, associate with our relatives, husbands, wives. So we have to do it on a spiritual platform.
Это любовь только разлагает.
See, this love that we think to be the true love, it only makes things worse. Mataji Chamagul,
Хари Кришна, меня слышно, да?
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Слышно и видно.
А то бывает, что-то не слышно через наушники. Хари Кришна, мои поклоны.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances.
Chaitanya
Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu, all devotees.
озвучили такой вопрос,
So today,
высказывание, да, и я его часто слышу, что вот ближе к инициации, преданным,
so closer to initiation, a devotee
как
might be
сейчас
very
период,
inspired, and
тоже вот
now I
недавно
have
начала
this
Brahma
period.
мантру читать.
I started reading
И
Brahma
уже
mantra,
более года, как я чувствую себя очень счастливым
and
человеком благодаря сознанию
and
Кришны.
I have felt very elevated during all this time.
Преданные говорят, что потом
And a lot of devotees, they say that even after initiation, there can be some fall down,
или что-то
some kind of a
я
depression
на
or something.
сегодняшний день я не хочу в это верить,
And I
не
just
хочу,
don't want to believe in this,
как сказать,
at this period of my time.
чтобы не потерять вот это ощущение.
So I just want to take some measures beforehand not to lose this inspiration in Krishna's consciousness.
Самолет, когда взлетает,
The airplane, when it takes off,
форсаж, да, ну, в максимальной степени включается двигатель,
it uses its maximum power.
и он взлетает там на какой-то скорости, может быть, там 250,
So it takes off at a very high speed,
отрываться от земли.
like 250 kilometers an hour or some, when it's possible to take off.
Скорости на самом деле он взлетает потому, что есть подушка. Он
And it
близко
gets
к земле, и
off
вот эта подушка,
just because of this air pillow
она держит его.
that keeps it.
И дает ему возможность взлететь на такой
It
скорости.
gives it an opportunity to
Когда
take
это
off.
устраняется на
But
высоте,
when this pillow is removed
он
at such an elevation,
наблюдаете,
every
падает
plane,
немножко.
it starts falling down a little
И
bit.
разгоняется, и потом снова же набирает высоту.
Then it gains speed and gains elevation back again.
Начало сознания Кришны создает
So the beginning of Krishna's consciousness, it creates this air pillow, this material experience. I am disappointed in this material life, and it gets me this air pillow, even at the low speed. But then, when this pillow goes away, the airplane will go down. But we need to pump it. We need to gain speed, because the start has been given already. Do not shut your engine down. Do not get disappointed. No, vice versa. Make more effort. And then you'll see that this environment, the spiritual environment, keeps you afloat, no matter what's happening around you. And you can be still on a high elevation. I don't see any bad things in it. Don't be afraid of it. Everyone flies the same way. So enjoy your flight, just as the flight attendants say. You'll be given some prasadam. You'll have an opportunity to watch something about Krishna's consciousness. Look through the window. everything's gonna be fine there. The service is great. We have the best airflow over here.
Ольга Халилова,
Хари Кришна.
Olga, please.
давайте.
Ага, ну вот как я для себя понимаю из бхакти программы,
As far as I understand from Bhakti program and all the meetings that we have, so the main thing is to keep my sadhana and sadhu sangha, and this is what gonna help me. Oh, you see, yeah, you've got it right.
И вот еще один второй вопрос. Ага, спасибо. И второй вопрос у меня насчет раннего подъема.
And the second question is about early awakening. So I'm Mataji and I'm a working Mataji, so I have to work. I still have my women's responsibilities. So before Krishna's consciousness, I used to wake up at 7:30. Now it's like 5:20. But at 4 o'clock, it seems to be too difficult for me. Is it even possible? You said 5:20? Yes. And then I want to move it a little bit early, like 5:10. So what's the perfect time? Just keep going. Go to bed earlier. Develop this habit of going to bed earlier. Then Olga. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for the lecture, Your Grace. So I didn't still get about the attachments to Jnana and Vairagya. So Vairagya, the principle of Vairagya means the So what I've understood from this lecture is that, well, I still don't understand how you can get not attached to Jnana and Vairagya at the same time. Can you give us more details? So Vairagya is the renunciation. So how do you get attached to renunciation? Renunciation from the material things. And then attachment to God. Attachment to Krishna means bhakti. Bhakti is Vairagya, it becomes Vairagya. In Vairagya itself, there's no attachment to Krishna, it's only the attachment to matter. Okay, thank you very much.
Imminent prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Chandra prabhu.
Как быть успешным в грехастха-ашраме,
How are we supposed to be successful in Grihastha ashram if you haven't gone through the stage of brahmachari? Well, probably you should spend some time, if it's even possible, and do it. See, I've always been Grihastha in Krishna's consciousness because I've come into this consciousness being married. But sometimes I used to live in brahmachari ashramas when I had some time, a week, a month, several days. That's how I was getting this experience. Probably you should do the same thing. Probably sometimes you should live in ashrams of brahmachari. At least several days or a week from time to time you should do it. In the ashram of brahmacharis, in sadhana. This is very beneficial. Yeah, you can compensate that.
Виктор, у нас есть вопросы в YouTube?
Do we have any other questions on YouTube?
Да, Карабаджана прабу, у нас есть вопросы, вопросов много, так что, как вы скажете.
Well, there are a lot of questions. You just stop me.
Харе Кришна, примите мои поклоны, дорогой
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj, dear devotees. How can I help a person that thinks to renounce the service to his family to serve to devotees? it's not a devotional service at all. If the question is correct, if it's not biased. So probably we should hear the other side as well. It sounds not to be the right thing. I don't think that it's not so bad. When a mother renounces her children, it's not a devotional service. It's just a career making. This is all fake, but if it sounds the same way, if it is the same way as it sounds in the question, I think we first have to hear this mother out. I'm risking right now to give a not correct answer. So if you refuse your kids, especially based on the Krishna's consciousness, like it doesn't even happen. It doesn't happen in Krishna's consciousness when a mother renounces her children. So I was recently listening to the reminiscences of Prabhupada's disciples, and this Mataji, she was telling a story when she was a Pujari. That was her service. So she was married, and then she had a child, and accordingly, and hence she couldn't do this service anymore fully because, well, she had a child, and she started doubting. She wanted to continue servicing, worshipping deities, and then she thought of maybe having a nanny for her child to continue the service as the main pujari in the temple. And then she called upon Srila Prabhupada with this question. It was like a personal darshan. It's fixed in documents. So Srila Prabhupada, you know what he said? So she said, I want to worship deities and I want to get a nanny. He said, your deity is the child that has come down to you. Raise your child. So next question. If a woman, a lady, does not even think about getting married, she only thinks about it when she gets reminded about it, is it her power, force, or just a weakness? Is it her strength or weakness? No, the point is that what she thinks of, she might not even understand what she thinks of. That's the problem of modern people. They don't even know what they think of these days. Prabhupada, for example, says that dog thinks it's a dog. How does it even understand who or what it is? People think that they understand what they think of. Well, if she doesn't think of getting married, I do understand it. We also didn't think about it when we were younger. Women, when you don't think about marriage, you just go out there and communicate with people. But the point is that subconsciously, this person thinks about the marriage. A woman does not think of herself and walking down the street. She's organizing this fine art for herself. She understands that, oh, when I was just walking down the street, I was looking for my future husband subconsciously. It's just your body, the way it is constituted. You don't even have to think about it, it happens automatically. So when you develop this skill of thinking, of understanding what you think, you'll understand what you are doing. So Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that a woman should be protected. So quite often people think that a woman should not be responsible for anything. But then, can you give us more details about it? The point is that now men and women are kind of equal, and if the woman is protected by her husband, woman should have the biggest responsibility for her family because she worries the most. So back in the time, when a woman didn't work, it was not very welcome back in the Soviet times. Everybody thought that women, they should be working just like men because everyone is equal. So when a woman was a housewife, her husband would just say, why you just sit at home, go out there and work. Now we have to understand that if the woman is a housewife, she works even more. According to statistics, she works more at home than a man at his work. She's more busy, she's busier. But it looks like as though she just sits at home with her children. That's the way men see it. See, the point is that no one even notices that. It is all an illusion, false perception, disrespect. That's what it is. It's a false pride of man. False pride of man. So the best engagement is to be a mother. It doesn't say that you're not supposed to be doing anything else, but your major responsibility to be a mother. Who can substitute you? Who can substitute this role? No man. It's not even possible. Try to understand its nature. Woman's nature. Do you think she's got no responsibilities? How could you do that? How can you think that? Thank you. Do you think we can keep on going? Yeah, we can dedicate a little bit more time. 2 more questions. So there's a strong attachment to the material activity. I've been building a house that's going to become a center for the devotional service and chanting. So japa has become very shallow these days. I don't even open the books, but I do not miss any of your lectures. While I'm working, I listen to your lectures all the time. And this project is serving you, dear Guru Maharaj and Krishna. Once you gave us an example when Shyama Sundara said, Prabhupada, that when I'm engaged in some physical activities, your spiritual life becomes very weak. So thank you for your service. Your preaching is a great example for a new generation. So please give your blessings to my project. So yeah, keep on doing whatever you're doing. So take a look at Gaurachandra, Hare Krishna. My obeisances, Hare Krishna, Mother Gaurachandra. Of course, when Prabhupada said so, it doesn't mean that his unattentive japa looks like our japa. It's not the same way. It's not the same thing. So I have one phrase about the love in material love in material life, love to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to say that if you didn't love your child in the material world, if you didn't have a child of your own, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what this love is like. When Yashoda loves Krishna, some about the love to Krishna, there's also some experience that helps us. When senior devotees only say about the love to Krishna, and when we are talking about this material love, we understand that it's only temporary, just a reflection of prema. We all understand these things, but it might sound a little bit confronting. Always stress when I hear that. Always strain when I hear that. And I see young people, they strain also a little bit because they take it differently. I'm just trying to open up a life story, life-based story. Probably we should just say it in other words about this physical love. Because the values that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave us some examples of it. When we say that there's no love in physical world, probably it's not the correct phrase, not very right, not very correct. So we should say that the real love is the spiritual love, and it doesn't actually exist in the material world, it's different. Yeah, otherwise people probably would get scared, would get afraid, hearing that there's no love at all in this world. So they would say, how can you even live there? How can you even live here? So we should say that just the spiritual love does not exist in material love. What Prabhupada has brought us, it only exists in the spiritual world, and he has given it to us in this material world. So that's what we have to spread. If you allow, I'd like to draw a conclusion referring to Shastras, just what Mother Gaura Chandrika had just said. So we've got, if I can say so, the most important verse of a pure devotional service. But Rupa Goswami, and it says there that the object of worshipping is Krishna. Devotional service should be selfless and favorable, beneficial. And when our acharyas, they give definition to Krishna, Krishna means worshipping to Krishna, because he's the subject and object of our worship in our service. So Krishna means all his avatars, expansions, and the most important thing, and devoted Vaishnavas. In other words, there's another statement. All these aspects of devotional service can be directed to devotees as well. And this will be located in the limits of devotional service, in the boundaries of it. Associating with the devotees and serving to Vaishnavas, collaborating with them, love relationships with them, they exist always in the spiritual world. There is a sadhu sangha. It's not just we talk to each other right now. It's a temporary process. When we, it's like when we reach the perfection, it's not going to happen at all. No, this process is ever going. Just like worshipping God. Sadhu Sangha will always happen here as an important practice, as well on the level of perfection in the spiritual world. This is process and purpose. Serving Vaishnavas, collaborating with them, because devotional service does not exist without it. Hare Krishna. Sadhu Sangha Prabhu, you're welcome to answer your questions. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, and dear devotees. So very often we discuss something with the Bhakti Vriksha, and one devotee keeps asking the same question. He seems that there's some contradiction. That the scriptures recommend not to associate with non-devotees and people that are not interested in Krishna's consciousness, but at the same time, scriptures say that we have to respect all the living entities. And he thinks that there's some contradiction in here, and no matter how often we discussed it, he still cannot understand it. Can you please explain it authoritatively? So we need to hear your authoritative explanation here. So yeah, the scriptures say that we have to treat everyone equally. And at the same time it says that we do not have to associate with non-devotees. It's better to hug a tiger or the crocodile than to associate with materialists. So how do you treat them equally? So there are some devotees that we associate with, there are some non-devotees, people that know nothing. We preach to them within the limits of etiquette. There's no contradiction in here. Rupa Goswami, the Nectar of Instructions, he says that when we talk about love, if you cannot love a person, love him distantly. Do not associate with him too closely. Then you'll be able to love him on a distance. So imagine a hospital. So there are different patients in there with some serious sicknesses. Some of them are unconscious. You are a nurse. Well, you treat everyone equally, right? But you go wherever you are needed. But you treat everyone equally. You're ready to help everyone. The one that is sleeping, you don't pay attention to him, but once he's awake, you're going to help him. These are equal relationships. So our readiness to help everyone. Equal means devotees understand it very well. So we have knowledge, we have this feeling that all the souls, there's even a soul in the animal's body as well, and we respect this position, we respect their false ego. We're not impersonalists, you see, just to treat everyone equally. We treat them, we respect them differently, but we do respect them, especially on the point of view of a soul in this, being in this material existence. When we were in hospital together with Gaura Chandrika, remember when we contracted COVID? So the nurses would come there, and doctors as well, all of these overalls, uniforms with masks, they wouldn't even communicate. They would communicate with each other without these uniforms, but they talked to us wearing these uniforms. And we thought it was totally normal, of course. We didn't think of any disrespect. They were forced to wear all these uniforms. See, sometimes we just do not get too close to some people that we don't like. Some drug addicts, some people, unmoral people, but we still can show a book to this person and give him some prasadam. So recent news is that in Russia, it's a fresh news. You might even not know about it. So there was a court building, and they found a bag, like a mysterious bag. So no one even thought that it belonged to someone. So they called to these different services and firefighters and doctors, and police. So there was a great turmoil. Everyone got evacuated. So the specialists, they opened up this bag, plastic bag. So there was a book, Krishna, the eternal source, the source of eternal enjoyment. And then the person that opened this bag, he says, Hari-Krishna, the eternal enjoyment. So it seems like one of the devotees did that. So now you see everyone learned about Krishna being the source of enjoyment. About equal relationships, I think we could discuss it a lot. So when we treat all the living entities equally, we still differentiate them a little bit. The point is that we are not enemies to them when we treat them equally. This is called neutrality. So you have to follow, you have to be neutral to all the world, equal relationships with everyone. If someone asks for help, we help him. Someone that is not asking for help, we still try to render some service to him. If he doesn't like us, we still stay neutral. We do not intrude. It turns out that we don't do anything, a karma. If we don't violate anything. Okay, dear devotees, Vrajamani, go ahead.
Hari-cakra, мои поклоны, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. Это новости уже 2 дня.
So this news is already 2 days.
2 дня назад тоже мне скинули. И я
Yeah, also, sorry.
про грехастха ашрам. Я думаю,
So since we have this topic about Grihastha ashram today, and I think that
подачи Карабаджана прабhu.
with the help of Karabhajana Prabhu, if we have these discussions with the disciples of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, this is a great science, because a lot of people say spiritual relationships, but what are they? We still didn't understand. Material relationships, what are they? We're still not clear. Someone thinks that, so I'm making this money, I'm bringing all this money back to my family, I am fulfilling all my responsibilities as a husband. Wife thinks the same way. Now I've prepared some soup, and that's it, I've fulfilled everything. So it's still not clear how these relationships are manifested. So it's not like a wife is trying to persuade your husband to do something, asking him to do something all the time until he does it. So I think we differentiate friendship between a husband and a wife, and compassion, and feeling each other. You've given us a lot of examples today, even about punishments. So I think we also have to think about all this. A lot of programs right now, like a student in ISKCON Bhakti program. So you've talked about punishment today for the devotees that do not wake up early in the mornings. I think that's a good thing. Otherwise, it's not even understandable the way they've created this marriage. And then I ask them very often, how did you even meet each other? How did you get married? So they say, you know, that's the person I met. And I then ask him, so why did you get married? You knew that what kind of person he was. He was always unattentive to you. So why did you get even married? Then 8 years after that, you have some enlightenment or something? It turns out people do not even know, do not even realize why they are creating families, why they marry each other. Well, you know, someone, they just got lucky. So they're just happy by some coincidence, probably. But someone, he or she really needs some instructions, some teachings to keep the family, so that it grows into a good friendship and spiritual relationships. Yeah, that's a good proposal, Vajramani Prabhu. I think we should do it because we can save a lot of marriages. And there's a third category that you haven't mentioned. Well, yeah, there are some people that got lucky. Yeah, there's some, they do have some respect in their nature. And they have a good marriage. Some people didn't get lucky so much. We have to help them out. And the third category, it also happens not rarely. You give them some books, you give them some instructions, they don't understand anything. They still fight, they have these quarrels, well, they have this very painful experience. Anyway, after all, they do realize something. Most of them, they have their marriages doomed. Well, we do have this category of people. For the second category, it's very important to have these instructions.
Потому что многое непонятно. Ну, я повторюсь, может быть. Ну, вот как духовный брак. Тут и непонятно.
Because really, there are so many questions, so many things that are not clear.
Ну, ладно, тогда расходить.
It's just, what can I advise them to do? Well, if they can't live together, let them decide for themselves. Of course, we can invite them to associate with devotees, but since you cannot live together, do you think they have to decide it for themselves? You have to give them some pieces of advice. So it's like you give them some advice, they stay together for some time, but at the same time you just see them suffering. They don't want to compromise. An experienced mentor, he can see that this marriage doesn't work out. Maybe he even sees that better than them. And then, here it's just in Manu Samhita. If a wife had cheated her husband, there are two possible variants. It's either he kicks her out or he forgives her. It's up to your husband to decide now. If he cannot forgive her, well, he has to do it fully. If you forgive her, you have to do it on a high level. Maybe it will sound not so spiritually as one might anticipate. Some psychologists help sometimes. It might sound paradox, but sometimes it works out. In marriage, there are always two people, husband and wife. They're not perfect, of course. All of us have some weaknesses. So probably it's a good thing to see a psychologist, like a family counselor, and take a look at yourself from the side. It's like when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you see yourself. Not a very good person, for example, don't blame the mirror. It's you. So probably it's a good thing to refer to a psychologist. And you will not get offended at the things he will or she will tell you. I know some examples of psychologists helping families. So there's an example that I have in my life. When a wife tells your husband, go see a counselor, but the husband doesn't go, his husband simply doesn't go, doesn't want to do anything. He just makes money, he can support his family financially, and that's it. He's not interested in anything else. Yeah, there's a conflict over matter and spirit. Just like Jesus Christ said, it also exists. Prabhupada has also touched upon this one. He said, I didn't bring peace, but the sword. Jesus. The society will be divided into materialists and spiritualists. And it will be painful in families. So if we are finished here, so I have something to ask, like for a favor. So Hari Prabhu wants to say something, and also I wanted to bless Mataji Kandarvika. She's got her birthday today. I'm going to invite her right now. So this is Samarkand, right? Please accept my obeisances. So we congratulate you on your birthday.
Здоровья, спасибо большое. Долгих лет жизни.
So may you have long years of life. Such devotees should live for long, making this world happy. You've got a great family. We've known you for so many years, and we visited you. So you are a very rare person. A great example to a lot of people. If you share your experience of life, your relationships, the way you practice Krishna's consciousness, this will be priceless gift for the devotees. You are a saint person. Girit Hari must be so happy. I think he got lucky so much. We don't know if he deserved it, but he's very lucky. Such a Lakshmi. I don't even know how to live together. So you can tolerate a lot of things. You see, he doesn't work. He still doesn't work, doesn't he? He only collects grapes, eats them all. And how can you accept it? You see, he's also become a saint near to you, being together with you. Well, there's only one person that works for all of us. Your child, unique son, unique person. His wife is also very good. Your disciple, by the way. I think she's gonna visit you soon. Gonna teach him a lesson. She's a great psychologist. Very wise girl. Good wife. Good couple. Are you organizing a program today in Samarkand? Yeah, tomorrow. Not today, but tomorrow. Miracles. So you tell me about it a little bit later, about this program in Samarkand. So remember, there was even police in there. Everything mixed. So now the situation is probably a little bit easier. So you can dance, you can invite some guests. So remember visiting the cave of the Davids. And I remember visiting your house, your place. When Girit Hari was playing guitar. Such a deep humbleness, devotedness. Everyone was so impressed. So please accept our obeisances to you and to your family. At the outdoor market, by the way, there's some strawberry, and you can actually leave Kazakhstan's border right now. So Uzbekistan is developing tourism right now. So, can you get us some strawberries to Almaty, please? So, well, probably. I do not know yet for sure. So you see, there's a good reason to visit us, just to get some strawberries. Yeah, we really miss Uzbekistan. So maybe in May you can plan a visit, and the temple has been reconstructed as well. So when we are ready, we'll tell you. Thank you so much. So be happy and healthy. Hare Krishna. So just 1 minute. I will not take so much time, sorry. So I'm really grateful to you, thanks to your grace, to your mercy. all this knowledge is spread over here, and I think everyone feels it, so we really have this great atmosphere. Even though the distance is so huge between us, we don't feel this distance as though we are here in just one big room. Anyways, at least we can imagine that. So thank you all so much. And about japa, you said something about the inspiration. You said that I would beat you up with the stick. So matter of fact, you can do that. Of course, you said it with the humor, your subtle humor. So thank you so much. But the matter of fact, about a month and a half ago, one Thursday, so Devakinanda Prabhu, we joined your japa actually. It was like an online japa. It was about 50 devotees that were chanting it. They were chanting japa with you. So even though we were promised it would happen every Thursday, but still it hasn't worked out yet. So maybe there's a lack of time or something. It didn't work technically. So if it works out, that would be just wonderful. So you would motivate all us to join your morning japa, to wake up earlier and to get this mercy. And there's one more thing, really quick. There's a very good verse, and it suits our today's atmosphere. So I'd like to read it out loud today, if you allow. It really motivates. So it's a verse in Russian language that is hard to translate. So it's about the eternal love that is sweet as honey. And there's no limit to bliss. And the temple filled with love. And about how some people believe in medicines rather than in love to Krishna and Lord. And that people are so bored in this life, in this material life. They're not interested in anything else. So the only thing that they're interested in is just rumors and gossips. How can they become happy? Only Krishna can help them. So He's the only happiness for your soul. So He's above all these material things. So He is the taste for the eternal life. And He can satisfy all your desires. He allows you to love Him. So let's sing about Krishna and glorify Him. Hare Krishna. Did you read it? No, it wasn't me. So, who was that then? No, Bhagavatam class. I will not tell you about the author, but it's not me. I think we'll guess. I'll send over some spies. So thank you, Hari Prabhu. So dear devotees, an important announcement. In May, the editorial board of our journal organizes a journey on the holy places of Samarkand. So send us your emails and messages. So there's a link in Zoom right now. So send messages to us if you're interested.